Hello everyone and welcome to another Thomas video. So today we're taking a look at Reanimator deck in Thomas format. So I am so excited to try this deck out because Reanimator hasn't really been a thing in Thomas format. We have tried this archetype like a couple of times, but it wasn't very good because we only had Reanimate to work with. Just 4 copies of Reanimate is not going to be good enough to consistently reanimate a card. And now with the Arena Anthology, that has been kind of fixed. We have another Reanimate spell in form of this card called Life and Death. So we don't care about the other side too much, even to the extent that we're not even going to splash a color for it because there's no point. We are playing a very low land count deck. We have 18 lands in the deck, plus 3 copies of Troll of Khazad-dûm, so there's not going to be room to play the life side of this card. A lot of the times, even with like a strip mine coming out from your opponent, you're only going to have maybe like 2 to 3 lands ever on the battlefield before the game is over. So the life side is just going to be completely dismissed, and we're only going to be looking at death. So essentially, this is basically Reanimate, except you're paying 1 more mana, and I wouldn't even say that's a pretty bad deal. If Reanimate costs 2 mana, I think everybody would still play it. And quite frankly, it would actually make Chalice matchups kinda good, because most of the times they're gonna be putting the Chalice for X equals 1. So death is going to be basically more copies of Reanimate in the deck, which is fantastic because that is going to raise our consistency in reanimating, and it also bypasses Chalice the Void, which is a bonus as well. So there are 4 targets that we want to reanimate. We have the usual Grief that you can reanimate on turn 1, or we have things like Troll of Khazad-dûm that you can reanimate on turn 2 if you cycle it. But mainly, our biggest threats are gonna be from Aatroxa, Grand Unifier, or the Valgavoth, the Terror Eater. I have been meaning to play with Valgavoth for the longest time, but every time I try it, it kind of fails because we didn't have ways to reanimate other than reanimate. So now that we have Life and Death, I'm gonna hope that reanimating is gonna be a little bit more consistent, and for the first time, I get to experience whether or not the Valgavoth is actually the Terror Eater. And outside of Reanimate and Life, we also have 3 copies of Emperor Bones, which you can use it to reanimate the Aatroxa or the Valgavoth onto the battlefield, or even Grief if you need that discard effect. But we're also going to be playing 3 copies of Stifle, which is not only going to be our land protection spell against other people's strip mines, but it's also going to be used to stifle our sacrifice trigger from the Emperor Bones. And last but not least, we have a couple of ways of discarding our cards to the graveyard so that we can actually reanimate. We have the 4 copies of Psychic Frog that you can use to discard, but we also have 2 copies of Bitter Triumph, which is going to be a way to get rid of not only the creatures such as Weary Zone Guard, but you can also use it to get rid of planeswalkers such as Ren and 6. And lastly, we have our trusty Undercity Sewers that you can surveil to put a card into the graveyard. This is going to be pretty important because you can combo this with something like a Brainstorm. For example, if you have a fetch land, you can fetch into the Undercity Sewers and then Brainstorm in response to the trigger. Then you can put a reanimate target on top of the deck, letting you surveil into the graveyard, into reanimating. And this one's going to be important because we don't play that many ways of discarding in the deck outside of Psychic Frog and Bitter Triumph. So you have to know this trick if you want to play this deck. And it's also another reason why we're playing 2 copies of Undercity Sewers in an 18-land deck. And you might be asking, how do we beat a Graveyard Hate? Well, we do have things like Psychic Frog, Emperor Bones, and Grief for that. But in the sideboard, we also have 3 copies of Barrogoyf and 2 copies of Brazen Borrower. What's interesting about the Barrogoyf is that the mill actually bypasses Graveyard Hate's opponent has, even something like Leyline of the Void. And what that means is, if you happen to mill a Brazen Borrower, you can pick up the Brazen Borrower into bouncing opponent's Leyline. But at the same time, the Barrogoyf also grows from opponent's graveyard as well. So if opponent does have something like a Leyline of the Void, as long as opponent's graveyard is full, this card is still going to be pretty good, even despite not having our side of the graveyard. So having said that, I'm going to be hopping over to some Thomas 3 to show you guys what it does. So let's hop on there. All right. That's kind of funny. So I can technically cheat this Grief out, but I have to use quite a bit of resources. No! No. No. Okay, well. I guess we still do it. Tarmogoyf. The Tarmogoyf is coming out next turn. I can't give them Ren. They have actually a pretty strong stuff going on here. I don't think I need Grief. I gotta strip mine. Let me see if I want to strip mine or Polluted Delta. Okay. So it looks like we do have to strip mine next turn, potentially. I think I'm just looking for one of the Reanimates at the moment. Okay, we found Death, but I guess we can find a Froggy, perhaps. Alright, we have a Stifle and a Bitter Triumph. Now we have to make a choice. Do I want to Bitter Triumph? Do I want to Bitter Triumph or Stifle? Oh, man. I think we have to go for Bitter Triumph, right? Okay. Now, opponent might try to discard if they have it. And they don't. I think I kind of want to just leave up a... Do I want to leave up a Stifle? Maybe I want to leave up a Stifle. Nice. Very nice. Okay, so my opponent now knows that we're playing some Reanimate shenanigans. So let's bring Harbinger, Life and Death out, Barragoyf, and Brazen Bee. We're gonna call like a Valgavoth and a copy of Atroxa. Kind of want a copy of a Flute as well. Maybe not. What do we take out? Maybe like Emperor Bones. Okay. Not bad. The funny thing is they actually have to get rid of a Reanimate here. Right? Barragoyf. Interesting. So this might mean that they have a removal spell here, but I think it's okay. Still 1-for-1, you know. Wow. So they get back a land. Sure. I can discard bunch of cards to kill this. But I'm not really sure if I want to do that. Discard, discard. My opponent drives a hard bargain. Darn. If I actually got rid of this, we could have actually played it. Fun enough. So we currently need a land here. I mean, another Psychic Frog isn't probably too bad. Boom. Okay, there's that first strip mine. Opponent takes 2. Goes to 10. I'm kind of hoping they don't have another Abrupt Decay. Another Renin 6. This time around, I might ignore this guy. And then just go all face from now on. Let's see. In case I draw a land, I'll do this. A Fatal Push. Okay, sure. Whenever this card enters, create a 2/2, and they gain life as well. Okay, we actually got a land. Let's see. Watery Grave. Kill this. Draw a card. Whenever this creature transforms into, deal 2 damage to target opponent planeswalker and deals 2 damage to one target creature. I see. So they don't gain life. If I go to 4, then I deal 6 damage next turn. 3, 4, 5, 6. But they could play another one of these to gain some life, so not really sure. I feel like I should do this so that this doesn't transform. Alright, close game. Leyline of the Void. That's not gonna do it. That is not gonna do it. And that is game. GG's. Ooh. So we can reanimate turn 2 Troll, but obviously not as flashy as getting like a Valgavoth out, you know? Okay, goodbye Death, maybe? Or could be a Grief as well. One or the two. So obviously Valgavoth is very flashy, but we might just want like lands. I don't know. But technically this deck doesn't need like more than 2 lands, so I'm gonna be a little bit greedy here. So they have a Wary Zone Guard and Deathray Shamans. Well, I can't let them have Renin 6. Well, I could take away Deathray Shaman. That means I can Fatal Push if it comes out, or I can get rid of one with the Spell Pierce. I think we get rid of a Wary Zone Guard because it's hard to answer. The double Shaman kind of sucks, I'm not gonna lie. The fact that they drew that, pretty good. No, they can play around it now. They can play around it. Feels bad. Let's brainstorm. So, I guess we want to top like so. So we top deck Psychic Frog. But the thing is, they have a Deathray Shaman. Yeah, the Deathray Shaman's not good. The Deathray Shaman is not good. Oh, they messed up. Oh, they messed up. Oh, never mind. They didn't mess up. They didn't mess up. No, they didn't mess up. What if I do this? Okay, what if they don't have another overgrown tomb? Let's find out. Do you have another overgrown tomb? Let's find out. Do you have another overgrown tomb? They do. Oh my god. Okay, opponent. That was very rude. That was very rude. Yeah, same sideboard plans. Coming out here. Probably not Spell Pierce. Everything else is good to go. Okay. I kind of like it. Like I said, I kind of like it. So we have a troll coming out. We don't have any reanimates, so I think this is okay. Question is, do I want to grief? I think probably not. Stomping ground into Ragavan. Oh wow. I'm gonna go with the Barragoyf. They have to strip mine the strip mine. Sure. Ooh, a Stifle. Let's attack. Let's smell something good. Ooh, a Grief. So we can even reanimate the Grief here. Okay, so let's see their deck. They have a Jar Soul, they have Wither Balloon Command, and they had a Fatal Push. Okay. Definitely a scary deck, I would say. They have a pretty scary deck, but the fact that they have a Jar Soul means that my Reanimate becomes even better. My Reanimate becomes even better. Immediately kill on sight those Deathray Shamans. Ren and 6. What a card. Ooh. Hmm. Let's see what we can put on top. Ooh. Okay. I mean, do we just win if we do this? I don't know. Yeah, what happens? Yeah, what happens if we do this? Wow. That is a Valgavoth. Oh man, that was sick. Okay, I don't think I would have actually kept this hand, but we do have double Spell Pierce, which makes me kind of want to try it, you know? Also, we have a double Surveil land, so we can go Surveil. I think I'm gonna Spell Pierce this. Very nice. Do I want that land? That it does let me play Emperor Bones and leave up these two cards, like Spell Pierce or Stifle. Oh man, opponent's just getting like bamboozled left and right. Okay, they finally got the Chrome Mox off. Oh god. Wow. That was a turn. That was indeed a turn. That was indeed a turn. So they have Necropotence in the deck. They had 3 mana, but they decided not to use it, right? Which probably means that they don't have Necropotence in hand. They might have like a 4 mana card, maybe? Okay, how do we get rid of this? We have nothing. So there's a 4 mana card coming out. Okay, GG's. So obviously I don't know what they're playing, but I do know for sure that Disruptor Fluid seems pretty good. What else? Maybe Brazen Bee? I mean, Barragoyf surely isn't too bad. Surgical for sure, I think. Like something like this, but obviously I have to take some cards out. Emperor Bones, Life. We'll just sideboard these out. These all seem very, very great. Fatal Push is probably bad, right? I'm assuming. I only play 2 Goyf this time. Okay. I don't think it's too bad. but it's not like particularly like great either. Brainstorm. Okay. Into Seat of the Synod. Okay, so we get to grief opponent here. And Thoughtseize, apparently. Should I Thoughtseize first? Because even if it's a Spell Pierce we don't care about, right? So they had another Brainstorm. I could Surgical to shuffle their deck away, by the way. Like, depending on what they have in their hand, I might actually do that to force a shuffle. Like, if it's a hand that I can win with just a Brazen Bee, I might actually do it. Yeah, so I take away... I mean... So the thing is, they actually only have blue sources. So... Let's say I take away Beseech and Dark Ritual? But then they can still do Sacrifice combo. Okay. Apparently that's enough. I was actually going to shuffle away the top. Okay, Aatrox are coming out. Ooh, we have an Eldrazi opponent. Okay. Ugin's Lab in a Strip Mine meta. I'll tell you that definitely Chalice of the Void isn't going to hit any of our 2-mana cards here. Oh my god. No way. No way? No way, right? Cavern of Soul? Okay, what are you gonna do when I just, like, reanimate, like, a Valgavoth, though? Just, you know. One ring? That's pretty good, actually. That is pretty good. So opponent goes to 17. 5, 6. Ideal 15. We're 2 off. If I can draw a land, we win the game. Actually. Yeah, we win the game if I draw a land. You know, Grief is actually not bad. But we can just reanimate this anyways? Wait, hold up. So we are reanimating the Aatroxa here, right? Oh yeah, I lied. You can't reanimate it because of the chalice. I'm dumb. Okay, Sire can go. Play the Emperor. Guess we just do that. Attack for a lot of damage. So, I mean, I can just play this out. I think we just pass a turn. I mean, I think opponents like that in so many multiple ways. Okay. Okay, they got me. But they're still dead because of the Emperor. Oh, they just sacrificed their chalice. I guess they're not technically dead. Oh no, they're dead. What am I thinking? Because of the One Ring. Harbinger in. So Life and Death is actually kind of better than Reanimate because of a chalice. It's kind of funny. We probably want the Thoughtseize as well. Do I want Stifle in this matchup? Usually this would be a consign, but I don't have consign at the sideboard because Eldrazi's are not very popular. Maybe something like this. Bitter Triumph. Bitter Triumph. The fact that they play that set, like the Sire of Seven Death, we might want this card. We also might want Valgavoth just as like a blocker as well against Sire. But okay, let's just get rid of a Stifle this match. And -1 Emperor Bones. Fatal Push seems like kind of meh as well. And I'm gonna go down on Reanimate, actually. We still have 5 copies of Reanimate spell. I'll cut a Baragoyf. Okay. Not too shabby. They took out the Chalice. That's fine. That is why we cut Reanimate. That is why we cut Reanimate. Frog, go! That's kind of annoying. Maybe I should have just waited until these cards, right? Yeah, I should have actually, I shouldn't have done that. I should have just waited until that card, but, I mean, we all knew that we were gonna draw Life and Death, right? That's why we did that, right? We knew that was gonna happen. Am I right? Another Life and Death. Boink. I've never won any games with Valgavoth before, so this is actually so sick. This is actually so sick. Alright, a little bit of a short video today, but that's all I got for today. But yeah, turns out, Reanimate. You just needed more Reanimate spells. Isn't that crazy? So this wasn't really possible before because obviously we didn't have another Reanimate spell. The only Reanimate spell we had, other than Reanimate, was this card here called Persist. Obviously, Persist is a really good card if we had Archon in Timeless format, but we don't, which meant that before this Arena Anthology, we didn't have any choice, right? And Aatroxes are legendaries, Valgavoth is a legendary, so the Persist targets are very, very bad, in my opinion. So now that we have Life and Death, it's so sick. The life portion, we don't care about because, as you can see, every single game, we never needed more than like 2 to 3 lands ever on the battlefield. So even if you're getting like strip mined and whatnot, we never really need those lands anyways. That's why we're not playing like that many lands. We're only playing 18 lands plus Troll of Khazad-dûm. So that's 21 lands. We're not even playing 4 copies of strip mines. We're only playing 3 copies of strip mines because like I said, we have Troll of Khazad-dûm and 8 copies of fetch lands, which means that we do need at least like 6 copies of swamp because of Troll of Khazad-dûm. That means when you slot in like things like basic lands, island, and a swamp, you don't really have space for another copy of a strip mine. So we don't even have 4 copies of strip mine, but we also have a different form of a land destruction with 3 copies of Stifle, which is pretty sick. Because not only does the Stifle destroy opponents' lands, but it also protects our lands as well. We have another application for the Stifle, which is kind of sick that we didn't really get to see it in this video, but if you have Emperor Bones, you can actually stifle the sacrifice trigger at the end when you reanimate something with the Emperor Bones, which means that you get to keep an Aatroxa or Valgavoth on the battlefield. Not to mention, the Stifle can also make the Grief stick on the battlefield as well. So there's definitely a lot of applications that you can apply with the Stifle. So that's why we only see 3 copies of Strip Mine here. Obviously a very low land count deck with a lot of like 1-mana cards, right? Even playing out the Psychic Frog is going to be a little bit difficult if you have a lot of colorless lands. So I think this worked out pretty fine. I do think that the self-discard could be a little bit improved. We only have 2 copies of Bitter Triumph and 4 copies of Psychic Frog. I do think I got like slightly bit lucky. So you really have to like utilize everything. So for example, there's a little trick that you can do to actually put one of your reanimate creatures into the graveyard. And this is also big reason why we're actually playing 2 copies of Undercity Sewer instead of only 1, despite this deck being a very low land count deck. And that is because you can also put these creatures into the graveyard with the Undercity Sewers if you crack it first, fetching the sewers into a Brainstorm, or just playing out the sewer into a Brainstorm as well. So you do have to have a full control for that. So we have a couple of ways of doing it, right? So we have a Brainstorm, we have a Psychic Frog, we have a Bitter Triumph. So that's going to be 10 ways of actually putting a card into the graveyard. But obviously Brainstorm, a lot of the times you're just going to be, using it as a means to like kind of fix your hand, things like that. So don't count on this card too much, but it is definitely an option that you have to know if you're going to be playing this deck. I think the deck came out all right. I genuinely do believe that like just having more ways of reanimating helped the deck tremendously, because reanimate decks before were kind of a meme, to put it bluntly. Like, it wasn't that great. And also, the sideboard has gotten significantly better with things like Barogoyf. So now that our deck gets hit by the graveyard hate a little bit less, like post sideboard, you get rid of life, you trim some like reanimate targets, right? And then put some Barogoyf and Brazen Bee. And that's really good because the Barogoyf actually goes through Leyline Void. You can even hit things like Brazen Borrower. If opponent has a graveyard hate on the battlefield, you can Brazen Bee and then discard using Psychic Frog and then reanimating. So those are kind of the things that you want to do when you're playing this deck. And if you ever see like a 3-color deck, you can even bring things like Harbinger of Seas. That's also really good. And we have 2 copies of Toxic Deluge for the energy matchup. So yeah, the Valgavoth was great today. I have been meaning to play with this card for the longest time, and I finally did it. We got to play with this card, and it felt pretty good. So yeah, that is going to be it for today's video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys all next one. Bye-bye.